Hey, Jonathan Bailor here, and welcome to the SANE Show, where starvation isn't healthy, where the dinner table is for family and food, not calorie counting and math, and where we eat more to burn more and heal ourselves so that we can enjoy radically more vibrant and fulfilling lives. Oh yes, and the SANE Show is brought to you by not a bunch of advertisements. Instead, we'd love to help you save time and money getting the healthiest and most helpful superfoods on the planet delivered right to your doorstep at store.sanesolution.com. Again, store.sanesolution.com. Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor here with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. And today I have just a really exciting show for you because I think we're going to get into some wonderful tips and tricks and stories that you can take to the grocery store. You can start applying tomorrow, and we're going to build all of that on a foundation of real proper nutrition with two wonderful authors, individuals who are not just writing and out there in the internet community, but have more letters behind their names than I think I've ever seen in my entire life. So I won't try to list all of that, but I will encourage you to check out Mira and Jayson Calton, the authors of the brand new book, Rich Food, Poor Food, the proprietors of CaltonNutrition.com, and just two outstanding individuals. Mira and Jayson, welcome.
Thanks so much for having us, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Well, Mira and Jayson, let's before we get into your new book, which is just a wonderful, wonderful addition, not only just to the literature about proper nutrition in general, but an awesome practical guide that individuals can start interacting with from day one. Let's talk a little bit about your story, because you guys actually have a pretty awesome story. Let's start there.
Okay. I was living in New York. I was a publicist, and I was 30. And at that time, I went to the doctor, and I went to the doctor because I wasn't feeling well for about a year prior. I started to feel a lot of pain in my lower back, and like a lot of people do, you ignore it, and you make excuses for yourself why you don't feel so good. You know, I'm just overtired. I'm working too many hours. My shoes must be uncomfortable. And I just got to the point that I could no longer stop paying attention. I was forced to pay attention. I couldn't do my job anymore. I couldn't go and see my clients. So I went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with advanced osteoporosis, or the bone density of an 80-year-old woman.
And you were 30 at the time.
I was 30 years old, and they basically told me, you have 80-year-old bones. They're not going to get any better. Here, take a pack of Fosamax and take one for the rest of your life as long as you live. Be ready to start breaking more often. And basically, that was the entire diagnosis.
I'm sorry, when they said breaking more often, did they mean taking breaks, or you literally would be breaking more often?
No, breaking bones.
Oh, geez, okay.
No, they meant my bones breaking. I was already starting to exhibit a lot of fracturing and stuff like that was getting to the point that, I mean, they weren't bad fractures at this point, but they kept saying, it's just going to get worse. And 80-year-old bones, with 80-year-old bones, you do expect that. There was no real reason. They couldn't figure out what it was. They just knew that my bones were in a bad state. I started looking into micronutrients, or those vitamins, those minerals, and the essential fats that they told me, you hear about sometimes for bones, vitamin D and magnesium and calcium, and started just to research on that. I had to leave my job in New York. I could not work any longer. I was that ill. And I went down to Florida for my sister to take care of me, and did a little research on my own. And luckily, my research led me to Jayson Calton, who at the time had already been seeing clients for over a decade. And we started to work on these vitamins and minerals and becoming sufficient in them, or getting enough of them through my food and through supplementation to rebuild my bones. And within 2 years, we went to see the doctor, and I got a DEXA scan, which is how they test for osteoporosis. And within 2 years, I had a clean bill of health. I do not have osteoporosis. It's been, I think, 8 years now since that happened, and I still don't have osteoporosis. So I was able to reverse it and keep it off.
So you actually experienced, and we have to be very careful here, but we're just talking about your experience. You experienced the C word, a.k.a. cure. You were cured of osteoporosis.
It has completely been C-worded, yes, cured and reversed. Reversed is how we generally like to say it. I don't know why, but yes, I don't have it any longer. I don't have osteopenia. I had to go literally from looking at myself, and I thought I was losing weight and getting healthy. And this is one people, please pay attention. You're not just losing weight. A lot of times you are losing muscle. A lot of times you are losing bone. And because you're starving yourself or you're going on a very low-calorie diet, it doesn't mean you're doing something that's healthy for your body. I was actually hurting myself by trying to be that perfect size 2 my entire, teens and 20s. And what I found out was that, once I started to get my muscle back and my bone back, yes, I got a little bigger. But at the same time, I got a hell of a lot healthier. I'm really, really happy about that.
Well, and it sounds like within that story, so and listeners here, the Smarter Science of Slim, can totally empathize with that. We talk about, starvation is not healthy. As crazy as that sounds, we seem to have lost sight of that a bit in our society. We definitely don't want to starve ourselves. But I'm guessing you may have not only, if I understand the story correctly here, not only cured your osteoporosis, but found yourself quite a wonderful partner.
I found a husband. We fell in love over this mutual desire to figure out what was wrong with me.
Well,
and now we're happy.
I'm about to say, that's like a full service consultancy right there. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Well, I try to please, No, it really was something that, it was just this. Mira and I, we had, first of all, we have a wonderful relationship, and we're so blessed for that. But, of course, it didn't start off that way. And it was crazy when she first walked into the office because, Mira had this situation that, you just don't see in 30-year-olds. But yet it's because I think as nutritionists, we don't really look at this other side of food very often. We really get kind of cornered when clients come into our office and say, I want to lose weight, or I want to get rid of this high cholesterol, or I want to get rid of this, whatever the problem is. We typically just put them on a diet. I mean, that's what they want. So that's what we do. We tell them what to eat and how often to eat and how much to eat. And so we get focused on those macronutrients. And very rarely do we really have an opportunity to look at the other side of food, which is the micronutrient component, and a component that I think is equally important to the fats, carbs, and proteins that we all focus so hard on. And that's where we come from now in the nutrition world. So every one of our books, from Naked Calories to Rich Food, Poor Food, and all the books we're going to be writing ongoingly, is always going to be first focused on the micronutrient and making sure that the individuals who are reading our books and following our programs first become micronutrient sufficient, and then build a proper lifestyle and diet on top of that.
Jayson, I think that's so profound, and I actually, that's one thing I like to do, and I try to do on the show, is celebrate the similarities between all of the various groups who on some level agree that the traditional American diet of processed starches and sweets and fats is bad, to celebrate those similarities. And one example I like to use is, while I myself am not a vegetarian, and my research does not suggest that others become vegetarians, although you could potentially be healthy being a vegetarian, one of the things I loved about the China study, which otherwise I did not really like very much, was their emphasis on nutrient density and just saying it's not all about elimination. You have to replace that with something. And the nutrient-dense vegetables and nutrient-dense low-fructose fruits, using these almost as a therapy, or the therapeutic component of these foods. I think so often we can focus on what not to do rather than what to do. And that's one of the reasons I love your guys' approach, is you kind of pursue the positive very much, and I like that.
Well, thank you. We actually coined a phrase called the nutrivore, because our belief, much like yours, it's unifying groups, not actually drawing them out and looking at differences. So we said the word is a nutrivore. And you can be a nutrivore regardless of your dietary profile, a paleo, a primal, a low-carb, a low-fat, a vegetarian, a vegan. It doesn't matter. The one thing you have to understand is that becoming nutrient sufficient first is a great platform for building health. And that's what we want you to understand is, there's junk food in every single one of those arenas. We just want to make sure you're not eating that. And regardless of your dietary profile, we want you to choose rich foods.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important. And what do you think we can do? I mean, just given your rich experience in this field, how can we work to help to communicate that just in the community and amongst our friends and family?
Well, I think, again, it's just bringing the focus back to those micronutrients and getting that word out there. I can't tell you how many times our publicists and PR people and media people, they say, well, you can come on, but don't say the word micronutrient because nobody knows what it means and it scares people. And, we try to get it in there as much as possible. And of course, I know your listeners probably all know what it means, but, these are the things, the vitamins, the minerals, and the essential fats that are supposed to be inherent in food. And of course, Mira and I, we were lucky enough to travel around the world for 6 years, to go to over 135 countries and all 7 continents, to live with and observe remote people from all walks of life. And our goal was to really look at what they were doing nutritionally and lifestyle-wise that were helping them to achieve this state of really a disease-free lifestyle, which so many of the very remote tribes find themselves in, and what we're doing in our modern societies and our big cities that are causing so much disease. And of course, we know it's nutritional and we know it's lifestyle based, but until you can really go and look at the human being today, not in some textbook somewhere or in some study somewhere, but I'm talking about kids running around in the grass, what foods they're eating, how they're moving, what water they're drinking, and what they're doing. Is it really so hard to create optimal health? And as opposed to what we're doing now. And I think that's, again, a very unique perspective that we have, having studied all these cultures and really looking at it. And we came to one very, I think a very profound truth, that micronutrient deficiency is the most widespread and dangerous health condition of the 21st century. And that we believe that to be true because so many of today's lifestyle and health conditions, from cancer to high blood pressure to heart disease to osteoporosis and now even obesity and being overweight, are all linked in somehow to some micronutrient deficiency. And if we can prevent that, if we can create a micronutrient sufficient state in our bodies, not necessarily a really high micronutrient state, but just reaching the minimum levels our body needs to maintain health, I think we can really see a major turnaround in the health of our nation. And that's why we wrote the books, to show you how to find these foods quickly and easily in your grocery store so you can start to apply, our rich food, poor food principle today.
Well, and let's get into that because I can go off for an hour on how much I agree with what you're saying. I mean, if individuals familiar with my work know that I talk about SANE foods, and the N in SANE is nutrient density, looking at the nutrients per calorie and how important that is. So we all love that. But what I love even more is the framework and the guidelines you've provided for that in your new book, Rich Food, Poor Food. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, basically, we go one step further. Yes, we do exactly what you're saying. We just talk about that nutrient density. But we know that that's not enough to protect you anymore. So what we did is we layered on top of that one more layer, which is what we call the poor food ingredients. Poor food ingredients are things like pesticides and hormones and preservatives, gums that leach micronutrients. It's things like BHA, BHA, known carcinogens. And what we did is we then said, okay, we're going to have these most micronutrient-dense foods, but we're only going to pick foods that don't contain over 150 of these poor food ingredients. So we're going to make just not only nutrient-dense, but we're going to make them safer in every aisle from dairy all the way through dessert.
And are these things that we could do in really any grocery store, or do we have to go to, let's use Whole Foods, for example?
No, not at all. You can use this at your grocery store. So it's going to be things like if you're picking out juice for your kids. Okay, well, we're going to start to show you all the different ingredients. First, we're going to explain to you the kind of juice that you should be choosing. Of course, we're 100% juice, and freshly squeezed juice are going to be your best bets. But then, a lot of parents they just grab and go. They're like, well, let me grab this B8 Splash or, whatever, Welch's grape juice. Well, we're going to show you that a lot of times on the ingredient list of these foods, they've added things in like sugar and high fructose corn syrup, or maybe you get to see, fruit juice concentrates, which are really just another name for sugar. And so there's so many things that could be in there that you don't want to have. And so there are little things like that don't really cost any more money that can be found at any grocery store. You can use that knowledge anywhere. Of course, we do give suggestions as to where foods that we've certified is what we call our certified rich food picks. And those may not be in every store. But what we did do also is we have a resource center on our website called the Rich Food Resource Center, where you can come and you can download our rich food request list. And what we did is we simply listed all of the foods that we highlighted in the book on that list. and we provide the UPC code there so that you can check it, print it off, check, mark right next to the food that you want your grocery store to carry that you'd like to try, bring it into your manager, and just request it. And the manager with the UPC code can get it in the store, lickety-split, and you'll be able to try it yourself.
Oh, well, I love this because this really takes the general guidance. I say, and I'm not the first person to say, a lot of people have said this, it seems like your book really takes to the next level. And general guidance is when you're at the grocery store, stay on the perimeter of the grocery store by and large, and oftentimes, like if it doesn't have ingredients lists on it, like a lot of these packaged and processed foods have to have ingredients lists because no one knows what the hell they are, whereas like spinach is just spinach and you've got that. But a lot of people want more. They say, okay, that's great, but I'm on the perimeter of my grocery store and it's still unclear to me. It sounds like it will no longer be unclear after they pick up a copy of Rich Food, Poor Food.
Absolutely, because even on the perimeter list, there's a whole lot to think about that you might not. You mentioned spinach, for example. Well, I mean, do you buy spinach organic or do you not have to buy spinach organic? Is that one of the things that carries out pesticides? I mean, you have to know a lot of things like that. And so what we did is we demystified the entire grocery store, every single aisle, so that you don't even have to wonder about that. We created something called the Clean 15, the Terrible 20 and the Fat 14, which outlines exactly which fruits and vegetables are the safest to buy or conventionally, and which ones you do have to buy organic. So we go through all of those things. What are the PLU codes, those little stickers on your produce mean? I mean, all of that is really important as you move forward. And by the way, for your listeners, spinach is a terrible 20 food. So that is something that you do have to buy organic.
Oh, and
it carries a lot of pesticides.
Oh, and that's where I wanted to go next, was to talk about, I think that sometimes individuals can feel overwhelmed by the amount of things which may cause them to have suboptimal health. And sometimes individuals kind of have to say, okay, if I've got to pick, like, what are the big rocks? Like, I'm okay not being perfect, but I want to make sure I'm getting the most bang for my buck. When I pick up a copy of Rich Food, Poor Food, will you give me a sense of, like, if you can only remember a finite set of things, like these are the top issues to avoid?
Yeah, exactly. And I want people listening also to know that we do not expect our readers to be perfect. Mira and I are not perfect. We did not create this book for people who are looking for perfection in their life. Yes, you could take it to that extreme if that's what you're searching for. But this book was really for the masses to be able to do exactly what you're saying. How can I, through almost very little effort, look at this book? We open it up to the aisles because that's how the chapters are. They're aisle by aisle. We did 9 aisles, so they're just the way that they're laid out in the grocery store. If you're in dairy, you look at dairy. If you're in meat and fish, you're in meat and fish. If you're in condiments, you're in condiments. If you're in snack aisle, you're in snack aisle. And we do all of them. We show you exactly what they are, and it gives you the exact takeaways. And even if the foods aren't there, we have something called the checkout checklist, which is really just kind of the synopsis of that aisle or chapter. And what that does is it gives you the pros and cons to look for in each and every food in that particular category. It's the same criteria we use to certify a food as either a rich food or a poor food. So you can say, well, my store doesn't have, whatever it might be, Jackson's Honest Chips there, which is our choice in the potato chip aisle. But it's got these other ones. So let me check and see if it meets the requirements. And they can just check the checkout checklist and they can certify a food themselves quickly and easily right away.
And that's what I really like, is I think the book is structured in a way where if you're a detailed-oriented person, you want to geek out. I mean, you can literally go on a safari to your grocery store now and just, you can completely get into the details if you want. Or you could just read this maybe when you're on a plane trip or while you're commuting to and from to work or just waiting in a waiting room. And it's written in a way that I will then, while I won't remember everything, I will, next time I'm looking at, let's say, pasta sauces, I will be able to say, wow, there's 36 options here. I'll quickly be able to narrow that down to 5. And then if I want to quickly turn over those 5 labels, I'll have enough knowledge that I can probably make the best choice just from memory.
Absolutely. We want people to be able to do this. The whole thing is about making simple swaps from one product to another product, just to make their life a little healthier with every small change you make. And some people, like you said, and we get these emails from people, go to the grocery store and do it all at once. And then we get shopping cart photos, and those are fun. actually really enjoy getting those. And then there's other people who said, you know what, this week I'm doing dairy, and I'm going to learn all my dairy. And there's other people who go on airplanes, and actually we got a story from someone who did go on an airplane and was actually reading it. They put it down, they fell asleep, and the person next to them started reading their book. And that is a true story. We just got back. But yeah, you can do it in bits and pieces. It's however makes it the easiest for you to learn these small facts. And once you get it, the great thing is you're never going to forget it. It saves time in the long run, because once you know what spaghetti sauce you're going to buy, every time you go to the store, you grab that spaghetti sauce, and you only have to think about it that one time.
Yeah. One of the nice things, too, about the book that I don't know if a lot of the listeners know is that it's also wheat-free and virtually sugar-free. So, those are two foods that a lot of people, are now thinking they're going to take out of their diet. They may be gluten intolerant, or maybe they're just taking wheat out for health reasons. And, of course, I think a lot of people are trying to stay away from sugar in general as well. And in a lot of these other books that were out before us, like Eat This, Not That, and these other type of grocery store guides, they didn't take into consideration these ingredients. They were just worried about calories and sodium and fat. Well, quite frankly, I like foods with a lot of good fat in it. And I'm not worried about calories as long as I'm eating good food and I'm eating, just nutrient-dense foods. So that didn't apply to me. And I don't care about sodium as long as it's unrefined sodium. So what I really wanted to look at was some of these other things in the foods, like the micronutrients and the sugar and the wheat. So everything from our bread, our chips, the candy bars, even the ice cream is sugar and wheat free. So it's really easy for people who are following these type of diets. And it's a paleo friendly diet as well, or book as well.
And Jayson, it's so funny that you should say that, because I write notes down here as we're talking, and the last note I wrote was, this is eat this, not that, but for food quality rather than calories.
Absolutely. It's for the health conscious person who one examples we give in the front is they chose Twinkies as a snack food, and they chose the baked Lay's as a snack food. In the intro to our book, we actually go into detail why a baked Lay's would not be, because of all the genetically modified ingredients, because of the sugar they added. Basically, it's not a healthy food. But we really want this to be the same sort of easy guide like that, but we want it to have valuable information that's going to make people healthier.
Well, and the thing that I love about it is again, the title of my next book is The Calorie Myth. I personally believe that at the root of all the disease and suffering epidemics we see in modern culture is caused in large part to the focus on calories rather than the focus on food. And that's why I'm such a big fan of your work and why I wanted to have you on the show, because one of the things we can learn from the quote-unquote calorie movement is approaches that people tend to like. For example, Eat This, Not That was a wildly successful book. And if we can just take that delivery mechanism and turn that into something that actually reflects good and simple science, which is what you guys have done, well, then we get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping people to do. That's exactly what we wanted to do. And we wrote the book as if the way we shop. But and I think it's what's really unique about it, the way that the book turned out, at least from my perspective, is that it can be used by people who are just wanting to go and say, you know what, tell me what I should buy, keep it simple for me, and I don't want to do a lot of thinking, I just want it to be easy. You can use it like that. It can also be used for those individuals, those nutritional geeks like us who love to dig into the details. And this book can take you all the way down that rabbit hole too. I mean, if you're a real food movement person and you think, well, I already eat all the real food in the world, what are they going to tell me about it? I hardly even eat at the grocery store. I've got news for you. We go into how to shop at the farmer's market and how to shop at the farms as well. I mean, on the cover of the book, I have an apple and Mira's got eggs. There's no way that you can visually tell me if that apple and eggs are rich food or poor foods, because just eating real food isn't enough. We go much further than just the real food movement. An apple today could be grown in nutrient depleted soil. It could have 42 different pesticides sprayed on it. It could have been shipped 1,400 miles across the country. That's a poor food apple. That's not an apple that I want to be eating. I want to be eating an organically grown apple that was grown somewhere.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like what you heard today, please help share the sanity by sharing today's show on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and whatever new virtual reality flying car jetpack social networking thing comes out tomorrow. But seriously, we need your help to end the obesity and diabetes epidemic, so please take 7 seconds right now and share this show. Together, we really can make a difference, and we can have a lot of fun doing it. And hey, if you like food, and if you like saving time grocery shopping, and if you like saving money, then I bet you will love these super convenient veggies, delicious protein, and craving-killing healthy snacks that you will find at store.sanesolution.com. Again, that's store.sanesolution.com.
And if you're looking for fun, practical ways to help parents and children go sane together, come join the party in the SANE Families program. We'll invite you into our homes and lives and show you a doable step-by-step process for raising a healthy family. Learn more at learndobecome.com/SANE.